It's time to fill up your cup on the Own Your Now show. Lady O, who is our Conversation Unite People Guest of the Week?
Tracie, we talked to We Power early childhood organizer Paula Breonne Vickers, a mother of two and an advocate for protecting our kids' power. We'll discuss the importance of investing in early childhood education to guarantee that our babies have the opportunity from birth.
You know, COVID-19 revealed that early childhood education is essential. It's in a state of crisis, and it's linked to the St. Louis region's health, economic, and public safety outcomes. 50% of early childhood educators participate in public assistance of some kind. St. Louis County has 450 child care programs with licensed capacity of a little over 33,000 children. And yet St. Louis County has 66,562 children under the age of 6 with working parents.
Having access to funds is a starting point for a better future for our child care educators and the families they serve. Child care educators deserve thriving wages that reflect the value of their work, including enough resources to care for their own families, said Mackenzie Grayson, Director of Advocacy and Engagement for Gateway Early Childhood Alliance. Our What's in Your Cup affirmation word is protect.
That's right, it's protect. And our episode today is all about kid power, protecting our children and investing in our educators. This is how we own our now, right here on the Own Your Now show.
Say I am unstoppable. Let me hear you say I am unstoppable. And let the horns play. Hey. Oh yeah. I heard that I would fail. Then I heard you won't prevail.
I am your host, Tracie Berry-McGhee, also known as Divine T.
And I'm your co-host, Yolonda Lankford, and they call me Lady Yo.
That's right, Lady O. Lady O, Lady O. My Lady O.
Yes.
That's right. You know, I have to ask you what's in your cup. For me, it was all about protect. What's in your cup?
Future.
Yes.
Just thinking about the future and how bright it is, especially when our kids get the rights to an education early.
That's important. That's important. You know, I'm concerned about the future of early childhood education system right here in St. Louis.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's time that educational equity is a must to ensure a level playing ground for early childhood educators. High quality early childhood care and education from the ages of 0 to 5 lay the foundation for decades of positive outcomes, not just for kids, but for their families and communities. Our babies and our educators need us on the front line, exercising our power as parents, providers, and change makers of the movement to transform policies and increase resources to support early childhood education across St. Louis.
We did not arrive at this moment by accident. Decades of decisions by those in power and those with power to influence led us to this point. In most instances, the decisions made throughout our history have benefited certain groups, typically wealthier and white families, and further marginalized and oppressed groups, typically poor and black and brown families. These decisions about policy, funding, and priorities have been made at all levels of community and government, including the 1971 decision at the federal level not to create public preschools for the entire nation.
Well, we must define the solution. And today we talk to a mom and an advocate committed to protecting and preserving childhood for all children. It's time for Conversations Unite People. Paula Breonne Vickers, welcome. What's in your cup?
So what's in my cup is grounding. So looking at being reconnected to our community, reconnecting to our families, reconnecting to our lives. So I'm grounding both literally and bringing myself back, but also in like getting back with the earth and reconnecting in that way.
Stay grounded.
Stay grounded.
Stay grounded.
Stay grounded.
We think the same way. Tracie always says to us, put your feet flat on the floor.
Yep.
Get
Yes.
grounded. Now, speaking of grounded, you are a mother and an advocate. How do you balance it all?
So that's part of it, right? So everything I do, I'm fortunate to have a village, and a village that keeps me grounded. And I said my affirmation word was grounded because when you think about things and how they are built, and if they sway or if they are steady, what keeps me grounded is my community. So I have my circle of friends that are my mom friends. And then I have like some of my close friends that may not be moms, but they're people that are close with me. And then I have a couple of family members. I'm someone that doesn't have a huge family, but I have a huge family of people that are chosen. And so they help me through it all. So even in like coming here today and like even thinking through an affirmation word, because I think through everything because I have to, because other people depend on me.
Yes.
They talk me through things and say like, does it make sense? So having that focal point and that point to go back to and put my feet firmly wherever I'm at, and having people to help me adjust, help me in that way. But I have it because of community, and I have it because I'm fortunate that I have two amazing children.
That's so true. And I think when you're a mom, you have to say, I'm okay with help. I
Yes.
need help. I know that for me and my mom, and I was a product of a teen mom, it took a village.
Yeah.
And literally, it was like she said, family that we choose for real. I want to know what brought you into this work? Like, what allowed you to step into your power when it comes to early childhood education awareness?
So what brought me here was having two boys. So you've known me, and I know your daughter because I worked with Girl Scouts.
Yes.
My whole life, I have been a passionate Girl Scout. I'm still a passionate Girl Scout.
Yes.
I grew up, my grandmother was my Girl Scout leader. For 13 years, I was a Girl Scout, and then I went back and worked for the council for over 5 years. And in that work, I was happy. I loved empowering girls. I loved empowering girls to be strong women. And I thought my whole life would be that. I thought I would have this like railroad from like Girl Scouts through retirement. That's where I would be. And then I had two boys. And when I had the first boy, I said, okay, well, maybe I'll have a girl at some point, and my life work can still be empowering girls. And then I had a second boy, and I said, you know what, let me pay attention.
Yes.
Because I am starting to recognize like life is putting me where I need to pay attention.
Yes.
So when I had my first son, it was May 2020. And I entered the hospital right at the start of the George Floyd protests.
Yes.
And on social media, there was this big social media presence of I'm a mother of a Black son.
Yes.
And that was the first time it hit me that like, oh, this is a different responsibility. Like it's one thing to have children, and then it felt like a different responsibility to have two Black boys. So that was my first kind of like, life might look different right now, Paula. Like everybody knows life changes when you have kids, but when you have Black boys in a society that their childhood might not be safe or isn't safe, that's what brought me to doing this work. Honestly, if I had girls, I don't know if I would have been activated in the same way. I don't know if my power would have looked like this. It would have still been powerful, but it might not have looked like this call to really address how do we protect children in their childhood.
And,
I agree.
and speaking
I agree.
of that, what does early education, childhood education look like now? I know what it looked like when I was younger, but now
Right.
they're wanting the kids to read a little earlier,
Yes.
to learn different languages. What does early education look like now?
So
Equity is a huge part of that.
yeah, and I'm going to answer this from the lens of Paula, the mom, first.
Okay.
Please do.
It looks like who you're talking to, because you'll hear different feedback from different people, and it really depends on the resources that they have access to. In a way, I'm fortunate because I have been in different spaces with children, so I know what quality looks like, but not everyone has seen that, right? So they may not know that they're not getting the best. They think what they have is the best because they haven't seen otherwise. Early childhood right now, of course, there is a worker shortage.
Yes.
So a lot of places are closed or not working at capacity. Our early childhood educators are not paid what they should be being paid.
not.
And I'm going to keep stumbling over saying early childhood. I'll say ECE
Yes.
because it's important not to call them daycares. I think
Absolutely.
Right.
when you start calling them daycares, it takes away from like the weight of what they're actually doing because they are preparing our children to go into our schools and be successful. But here in St. Louis, up until 3, you really don't have any option that's a requirement or even funded for your child to go to an early childhood space. At 3, we start seeing like preschool or pre-K 3 classrooms, but that doesn't exist for birth through 3. So it looks like who you're talking to. It looks like the ability and the resources that they have, and that's where the conversation comes of communities that have been pulled of resources or don't have the same access to resource. That quality is looking different.
You know, over 20 years ago, I was the mental health specialist for over 3,000 families with the Head Start program. And that need is still prevalent today, but the resources look different. Talk to us about some of the opportunities or resources to support our babies.
So that's what pulled me into We Power and this
Yes.
work, because I started recognizing like I could do things for me as Paula and I could do things for my kids. So what does that look like? That might look like moving to where school systems look different or whatever. That's a very singular approach, right?
Yes.
And I recognized very quickly that that would not be the answer because children are impacted by the children that they're surrounded by.
Yes, they are.
So unless my children are also surrounded by other children that have their resources and needs met, then I haven't done my full job. So looking at what it looks like to win campaigns and looking at funding from the local and state level of what it looks like to provide those resources to these spaces. In 2022, We Power ran 2 campaigns.
Yes.
I'm saying helped because this is before I was with them. I was a mom that showed up, and that's what really pulled me out. So we went, and I tell this story. So there was an older lady that called me. And she's on the phone, and I had been like ignoring these messages about like coming and showing up. I had been ignoring the messages, and this older lady called me, and I answered the phone, and it just felt like a reminder of like that grounding in community because I was raised in big part by my grandmother. And so when she called, I was like, man, now I have to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, my babies.
It was
Yes.
a yes, ma'am moment. And I went, and it turned out that like we were going to go testify at a St. Louis County Council meeting. And I said, that's different. Like I was trying to figure out how to make my exit without being rude. Because that was very uncomfortable for me.
Yes.
And so something kept telling me like, Paula, nope, you're here. See it through.
Own your now.
Get
Own your
comfortable
now.
being
Yes.
uncomfortable so you can.
Yes.
Own your now.
So I went and we spoke to the St. Louis County Council, and we spoke to them really demanding these funds from the ARPA dollars be spent in supporting, that one was for wages in the TEACH program so that our educators have people supporting them as well. So they're
Yes.
not always the ones that have to advocate for themselves because how exhausting is that?
Right.
That they take care of my kids all day and then they have to go advocate for themselves so that they can have life. Like what? That doesn't make sense to me.
She's a keeper to educators.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
looking at what it looks like to transform that is looking at getting that funding on a local and state level. So We Power, we won 2 campaigns in 2022.
Yes.
Yes.
So over $5 million in St. Louis County, over $1 million in St. Louis City. And then we're gearing up for our big campaign for 2024 of $100 million.
Yes.
You
that's
say
it.
that lightly,
That's
but honey, you are doing it. You are doing it. Now, you talked to us about prior to coming to We Power, and now you have your new position. Talk to us about how that feels, how it feels to own your now.
It feels different, right? So I wasn't expecting to feel a little bit of grief, and I'm speaking to it because it's important. Because I think moms are like not told that they can talk about the parts of motherhood that aren't pretty and like
I understand.
first, and like we're celebrating the first walk and we're celebrating this and that. Some of it is also letting go of what we had pictured, or I'll speak for me, what I pictured for my life. And what my life would look like, but now also still loving this life.
Yes.
But there was an amount of like grief of, okay, well, the dream that I had for myself just now looks different.
It does.
But you're still dreaming.
Yes.
You're still dreaming. It just looks different.
Dreaming bigger and for
Yes.
more.
And it's bigger than you.
Yes.
It is.
I was also gonna say it's more weight behind the dream now, and I think
Yes.
that's the power sense, right? Because I was comfortable in my dream, because that dream was just me, right? Like if I've lived a beautiful life in St. Louis because of my community, but now the dream's not for me. Now the dream is like a responsibility to children.
Yes.
And that's where it's
our
like, that's
community.
different.
Yes.
That's a different, so there was some grief, but then there was a lot of joy, because there's the sitting and feeling like I'm not doing anything, or I'm restless because I don't know what to do. And then there's the joy in knowing I'm activating my power. Like I am doing what I can for my babies, and I'm doing it now.
Yes, and you know that old gospel song says, joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And I love that you say yes to doing the work. Well, we have a couple of yeses that we want you to talk to us about. I realize that our children do grow fast. We talked about this prior to this segment. Yolonda and I are grandparents. I'm Yaya.
I'm Yo-Yo.
That's right. And we are always reading to our grandchildren. I know Amir loves books, and Amaya will as well. But talk to us about your children's favorite books, or did you have a favorite author, a favorite book? But your kids, your babies are young babies now, and even so first we bought all these books that now the hardback books, and now he's finally realizing like, yeah, read this book to me. Do you have a favorite? Does your boys have a favorite?
Absolutely. So my favorite growing up was The Snowy Day by Ezra Jacks. My oldest, so Parker, he carries around this like Discovery, the Science Channel. It's a book that is about ocean animals, and it's not a picture book. It's like it's an advanced reader book. I don't think he really recognized it, but he is so attached to it. Like kids would be attached to like a toy or a pacifier, but he's attached to this book, and he calls it Bookie. And so everybody's like, "Where?" Anytime he's anywhere without it, he's like, "Where's Bookie?" When he goes to school, he puts it in his cubby. Yeah, and
Hey,
the
that's not
little
a bad
one-
thing, honey, to be attached to a book.
Yes,
I love it.
I actually think, in full disclosure, I think Paula gave Amir one of his first books.
Yeah.
I remember at his baby shower, and
Yeah.
they did the trunk, and so that's important. That's important.
And
Yeah.
you were saying your youngest son?
He loves anything Sesame Street, but his favorite book is any variation of Wheels on the Bus.
Round and
that is
round.
his
That's my
jam.
thing.
He gets to swinging his arms. Like that is full on his jam. And we got this version from one of my friends in Cuba, and it's like in the village, and it's like a different variation of it, and he gets so excited. He
Wheels
gets
on
to
the
throwing
Bus.
them arms around.
All through the town.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Next, preschool teacher. Do you remember your preschool teacher?
I do, because I went to a in-home center 2 houses down from where I lived. Her name was Miss Ella, and it was Mom's Child Care. And I just remember it because I loved it. I went other places, but I didn't love them.
Okay.
But I just remember when I got to Miss Ella's, it was exciting because I was learning Spanish.
Wow.
I was learning like all of these things. We were going on field trips, and so now I'm like, this is what children deserve. Children deserve that.
Yes. And now I have one. Favorite game when you were a kid?
Ooh, probably hide and seek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. I got to shout out my son's preschool teacher. It was in home. In home is important in the community. And her name is Miss Patrice, but he called her Nanny. And he's 24 now. Same relationship.
I love it.
She's like his godmother. It matters. Early childhood, it truly does matter. Okay, our last one. Favorite childhood snack.
Oh, I know what mine was. I want to go here. Crackers with peanut butter.
Crackers with
And do you know
peanut
why?
butter.
Michael Jackson ate crackers with peanut butter, and that's what I loved.
But like saltine crackers?
Saltine crackers. You're right, girl. Nothing fancy.
Oh, wow. Mine was definitely graham crackers. I love the graham crackers. And you could like break it, and you could have the little squares and
yes.
everything. What about you?
Mine was animal crackers, and I liked acting out like the little scenes with
No,
animals.
the animal crackers with the frosting or the plain animal crackers?
So they were in the box, the
little
circus box.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, those are the plain ones. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Paula, we thank you for being an advocate for early childhood education, for being a mom that's definitely owning your now. Are there any tips you can leave to the new moms out there? Because we got some new moms that are looking.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is circle yourself or get women that have children around your child's age, like in your network, because there will be struggles that only they will understand. Accept help, because that was something that was really hard to lean into, because we were built to think we needed to be Superwoman. The last thing is we have a Power and Policy Action Group that is led by me and another member of the coalition for We Power, and it's the first Wednesday of every month at 6:30. And it's another space that you can come and hear things that you could do within your community, hear where you can step up or just where the need is. So sometimes just taking that first step of showing up. I can't be the grandmother that calls every single person, and I don't know if that person will ever be able to call every single person, but just imagine like what it took for like the warmest hug in your childhood, what it took for them to show up and be that and show up for kids.
I love it.
Well, we just want to thank you for showing up, for testifying.
Yes.
And making sure that you continue to own your now. Thank you. And now it is time for the Own Your Now flow. Lady O, I think that the education system, we're going to be okay. We got to just make sure that we focus on the value of our children as well as our early childhood educators.
Early childhood education is key, and the educators are key.
Yes, they do. They matter. They matter. Lady O, what is your 101 tip of the week?
Well, you know, I talked about the future, but I want everyone to always remember the child inside. You know, I think sometimes we forget how playful and how joyful we were running outside, riding our bikes, playing jacks, you know. So take a little moment. I know we want to look into the future, but take a little moment to just go back and find the child in you. If it was hot chocolate, it could be something so small, and just watch the joy that comes from inside and the smile that comes on your face.
That's it. That's it. So it's a part of the Own Your Now flow. It's important that you know that we have to protect our children. And in the midst of protecting our children, also show them what it looks like for us to stay grounded.
Yes.
Because remember, they are the future. We'd like to thank Paula Vickers for filling up our cups. Continue to stay connected with us.
Protect your future. That is right. You have to protect your future. Until next time, go out and create some vibrant vibes. Keep sipping peace, love, and positivity.
And remember, tomorrow isn't promised, so own your now.